Alrighty, so we're still taking a look at our rivers of Europe, okay? And so if you're going to have this map of all these rivers of Europe, it'd be nice to have some information about those rivers, right? So maybe you want to look at how long these rivers are, their total length. That would be a very common analysis you'd want for your rivers, okay? So let's go ahead and open up our Rivers of Europe attribute table. All right, so I've got a bunch of ID numbers. We know the rivers, their scale rank. Well, that's not going to be an actual length. It's going to be ranking them. Their number, their name. I'm not seeing anything related to length. So already we know that we're missing an information that would be useful for us. Okay, so you can scroll through here. None of this is length. Okay, so how can we still do analysis of length if we don't, it's not in our attribute table, but there has to be some type of data regarding length because all of these lines have a physical value to them in terms of their spatial extent. And that's one nice thing, again, about working with GIS is there's already a spatial component tied to these files just because of their spatial nature, okay? So, oops, too far. We're just in Europe. Didn't want to load all of the rivers of all the world. It got too much. Okay, so there's a tool you can use. It's not the best option for this, but it is one option that you could use if you wanted to look at the length of different lines as it related to polygons. So, for example, let's say you need to look at the total number of rivers in Ireland. Okay, you could sit here and count those lines, or you could run a tool for that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go to Vector, and we're going to go to Analysis, and it's the Sum Line Lengths. And so what this does is you tell it what polygon you want, and we want to know the total number of rivers in Ireland. So we're going to go ahead and go to our countries. And the total number of lines would be rivers. So what it's going to do, it's going to make a new shapefile, and it's going to give us two new columns, length and count. So the length is going to be the length of the line. In this case, what's going to do, it's going to add up all those rivers' length and give us the total length of all the rivers per polygon. And it's going to give us the count, which is going to be the total number of rivers per polygon. So we're going to have an attribute table that's going to have all the countries of the world, and it's going to add two new attributes. One is total length of rivers per country, and one is total number of rivers per country. Okay, let's go ahead and run that bad boy. It's going to take a while. Get some coffee. Okay, it's back. I just spared you the pain of waiting. Okay, cool. So it's all done, and we now see we have a new file. And let's not have it be, was it supposed to be purple? Red. Let's not have it be red because our rivers our lakes are already red. So let's not have the countries be red too. Symbology. I don't know. How do we feel about orange? That's not orange. That's orange. There we go. Let's do orange. There. Okay, cool. So I have my new shape file. Okay, so there's all my countries. Now you'll notice the rivers aren't visible here because what this tool does, what this sum tool does, is remember it's changing information in the attribute table. So we've added attributes to our table. So line length. There's my amoeba. Remember, it's a temporary layer. So if I want to save it, you have to do some steps to it. I'm going to go ahead and right click my open attribute table. There's all my countries. I'm going to scroll to the end, and sure enough, there are my two new attributes, length and count. Okay, so again, we only looked at the rivers of Europe, so it makes sense that Nigeria has 0, Angola has 0. So some of these, make sense why you'd have 0. And some of them might be saying, well, wait a minute, how come Saudi Arabia has, apparently, there are 21 European rivers in Saudi Arabia. Well, that's interesting. You might be thinking that doesn't make much sense. It must be an error. Well, remember, whenever you click a record in an attribute table, it automatically highlights it on your map, which is really awesome. So let's take a look. There's Saudi Arabia. Although those of you who are in my 150 class already know where that is, right? So we don't see any rivers here because my river layer is hidden. So we're going to go ahead and take our rivers and we're going to move it up in our menu. And what do you know? We actually do have lots of rivers from Europe that are going into the attribute table, into Saudi Arabia, which makes sense if you think about, rivers don't really pay attention to international boundaries. That's just an example of how attribute tables can bring out information that you may not have thought about. And so you could then go through and select each one, and it'll tell you the name of the river. Oh, this one doesn't have a name. Oh, that's sad. I'll tell you, oh, it looks like probably all intermittent. Actually, that does kind of make sense if you think about Saudi Arabia. So it'll just give you the information about each of those rivers. Okay, but again, our original question was how many rivers are in Ireland, or at least according to this data set. Okay, so we'll go ahead and go back to my original or my new file. And we need to find Saudi Arabia. So let's go ahead and let's make this alphabetical. Or you could search, but let's do alphabetical. Oh, fine, we'll do filter. And I want to look for Ireland. What do you know? There we go. Doo-doo-doo. There's only one feature. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. Come on. Show my features. Now it's being late. No, not Saudi Arabia. It's not making my life fine. No, go back. Let me show my file. Yes, that's Ireland, correct. I just went back to what I originally wanted, was just to alphabetize and find it that way. Okay, so here you go, Ireland. Let's go ahead and take a look, scroll over. Well, according to this data set, there are going to be 4 river segments in Ireland. The total length of 396,237.46, probably meters because we're working in meters in this projection. So then that answers your question, right? You could have counted them, but what's the fun of that? You can do this one instead, especially for things like that Saudi Arabia had a lot of them. You wouldn't want to count all of them, okay? So that's going to be showing how lines and polygons intersect. So also good for if you need to look at the number of roads in a city, rivers in a city, so anything that's going, or you could do a number of utility lines within a zip code. So anything that's going to be counting the number of lines per polygon.